Right. So today, we're going deep into disability support services
Yeah.
in the Philippines.
Yeah.
And I think anyone who's tried to navigate this world knows it can get complicated.
That could be a maze.
Yeah, totally. Like, you've got the PDAO,
Right.
the Persons with Disability Affairs Office, and then you've got the CSWDO,
Yes.
the city, Municipal Social Welfare and Development Office. And figuring out
Which one?
who does what could be a real head scratcher,
Absolutely.
especially, with all the changes that have happened since that Mandanas ruling.
Yeah, that really shook things up.
It did. So to kind of make sense of it all, we're looking at this 2023 Joint Memorandum Circular,
Okay.
or JMC for short, issued by the DSWD, the DILG, and the NCDA.
3 big players.
Big players. And it's all about laying out how these two offices, the PDAO and the CSWDO, should be working together.
Especially now.
Especially now. It's like, okay, new rules of the game. How do we make this work? Exactly. So before we crack open this JMC, can you just give us like a super quick overview of what each office is supposed to be doing?
Sure.
Like, what's their main gig?
Okay. So the PDAO, they're all about promoting and protecting the rights of persons with disabilities.
Okay.
Their legal basis is Republic Act 170. Think of them as like advocates, making sure you have equal opportunities, that you can participate fully in society.
So they're not just about giving services. They're about like making sure your rights are actually respected.
Yeah, at every level.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about the CSWDO?
So the CSWDO, they have a wider scope. They handle a lot of different social welfare services for individuals, families, communities, anyone facing challenges. So it could be financial assistance, disaster relief, programs for children, senior citizens.
Okay, so much broader than just disability. Okay, I'm starting to see where the potential for like
overlap
comes in.
Yeah. I mean, you could imagine both offices might offer financial aid, for example.
Right.
Or they might both be involved in getting assistive devices to people.
Oh, so it's like, who do I call for what?
Exactly. And that's why we have this JMC trying to make it clear who does what to avoid everyone doing the same thing.
Right. No more running around in circles.
Exactly. And more importantly, making sure people with disabilities aren't falling through the cracks.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, before we get into how the JMC tries to sort this out, something you said really caught my attention. You mentioned that the PDAO is all about disability rights, not just welfare. What's the difference there? Like, why is that distinction important?
Okay, that's a great question. So Republic Act 7277, which is also known as the Magna Carta for Persons with Disabilities, specifically says that disability rights, they're not just a welfare issue.
Right. So it's not just about, like, charity.
Right. It's bigger than that. It's about recognizing that people with disabilities, they have inherent dignity, they have rights, regardless of their economic situation.
So it's about empowering people as equal members of society.
Exactly. It's about breaking down barriers, promoting inclusion, making sure everyone can participate fully in life. That's where the PDAO comes in.
Okay, so that really sets the stage for what this JMC is trying to do?
Yes.
So how does it actually go about clarifying these sometimes blurry lines?
Well, the JMC, it outlines 13 specific areas where the PDAO and CSWDO need to coordinate.
13.
Yeah.
Okay, we may not get through all of them today.
You might need a few deep dives for that.
We might, yeah. But let's try to hit some of the key ones.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that really stand out to you as, like, crucial for someone listening to understand?
Well, I think understanding how case management works is really important.
Okay, yeah, case management.
Yeah, so let's say someone with a disability needs support. It could be assistive technology or rehab plan, whatever.
Yeah.
How would the PDAO and CSWDO work together in that situation? Ideally, it should be a smooth process. The PDAO might identify what the person needs, what their rights are, work with them to create a plan.
Yeah.
And then the CSWDO would come in with the resources, the funding, to actually make that plan happen.
So it's not like they're working in these separate silos.
No, not at all.
It's like a team effort.
It should be. And the JMC actually says that the PDAO should actively encourage the CSWDO to prioritize people with disabilities.
Oh, wow. Okay.
When it comes to getting those social welfare services. It's about making sure the system actually works for you.
That's good to hear. Now, I'm guessing this collaboration probably also comes into play with Like counseling services.
Absolutely. In fact, the JMC encourages PDAOs to offer peer counseling,
Okay.
which can be so powerful, because it's coming from someone who's been there, who understands.
Lived experience.
Exactly, lived experience. But if someone needs more specialized counseling, like from a registered social worker, the PDAO would probably refer them to the CSWDO.
Okay, so again, it's about each office.
Playing to their strengths.
Yeah, using their strengths,
Yeah.
making sure the person gets the right support
Exactly.
at the right time. Okay, so that makes sense. And then there's this whole section on referral services.
Right.
Can you break that down for us?
Sure. It's basically about building this network of support. Let's be real. The PDAO can't have every single resource under the sun.
Right.
But they can connect you with other organizations that can help, like vocational training centers, support groups, even legal aid. It's like having a guide who knows the system and can point you in the right direction.
Okay, so it's almost like a one-stop shop
No way. Yeah.
for navigating this pretty complex world.
It can be really daunting, especially if you're not sure where to turn.
Yeah, absolutely. And this actually leads into my next question, because the JMC also talks about both offices supporting the creation of like self-help groups
Yeah.
and community-based organizations.
Absolutely. So important.
So it's not just about individuals, it's about like,
empowering the community.
yeah, exactly.
As a whole, building those connections, being able to advocate for your needs together.
Love that. There's power in numbers.
Right.
Okay, one more thing before we move on. I got to ask about the section on home visits,
Okay.
because honestly, the thought of multiple agencies potentially like showing up at my door,
Yeah, it can sound a bit,
a bit much. Yeah.
but the JMC is really big on efficiency and trying to minimize those follow-up visits. So the goal is to be proactive, not intrusive.
Okay, so it's not about like constantly
No, not at all.
checking up on you.
The idea is to assess the situation, provide information, or deliver services directly if needed.
So it's about like meeting people where they are,
Yes, exactly.
literally, in a way that's helpful, not overbearing.
Exactly. For example, for issuing those PWD IDs.
Oh, right, the IDs.
Yeah, those are important for accessing benefits. The JMC says, process those quickly, deliver them maybe even through home visits to avoid delays.
That's great, because nobody wants to be stuck in bureaucracy. Exactly. Especially for something that important.
Absolutely.
Okay, I know we're running a bit short on time for this segment, but I do want to touch on one more thing before we wrap up part one,
Okay.
and that's data management.
Yeah.
Because I have a feeling this plays a bigger role than we might realize.
It's huge. Data is like the backbone of any good service delivery system.
Right, like you can't plan a road trip without a map.
Exactly. And the JMC really stresses the importance of the PDAO and CSWDO working together
Okay.
to gather data about people with disabilities in their area, to analyze it, to
Right.
use it to plan.
So it's not just about the numbers themselves.
Oh,
It's about making sure those numbers translate into actual help.
absolutely. Tangible benefits for the community. And a big part of that is the Philippine Registry for Persons with Disabilities.
Oh, right, the PRPWD.
The PRPWD, yep. It's a national database
Okay.
that tracks the needs and demographics of people with disabilities across the country.
And I'm guessing the JMC really encourages everyone to
Get registered.
get registered.
Yeah, because the more accurate that data is, the better local governments can provide the right services in the right places.
It's like, if you're not on the map,
They can't find you.
they won't know you need directions.
Exactly.
All right, that's a great place to pause for. I feel like we've covered a lot of ground in this first part.
Yeah, we're getting a clearer picture of who does what and how this JMC is trying to,
Smooth things out,
smooth things out, make it all work better.
but we've only scratched the surface.
We have a lot more to dive into.
So much more. Stick around for part 2, where we'll keep exploring those 13 areas of collaboration and see how this JMC is shaping the future of disability support in the Philippines. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back.
So we were just talking about data and how important it is
Yeah,
for making sure, resources get to where they need to be.
absolutely.
And I think one area where that's super critical
Mm-hmm.
is in disaster situations,
Oh, for sure.
especially in a country like the Philippines,
Yeah.
which is prone to typhoons.
Yeah. Right. Earthquakes, all of that.
Everything. So does the JMC address that?
It does, yeah. It emphasizes the need for the PDAO and the CSWDO
Okay.
to work really closely together when responding to disasters. Remember how we talked about those lists of people who need support?
Okay.
The JMC says make sure those lists are accurate.
Oh,
double check them, specifically to make sure that no one with a disability is left behind.
Yeah.
During evacuations, relief efforts, things like that.
Oh, that's so important because it's so easy for people to slip through the cracks.
It is.
In an emergency.
Yeah, especially if they need extra help.
Exactly. So the JMC is trying to, like,
Build that in.
build it into the system.
Yeah, from the beginning.
Okay, I like that. And does this kind of proactive approach go beyond just disaster preparedness?
It does. The JMC also talks about planning
Okay.
and budgeting for disability services. So both the PDAO and the CSWDO, they need to work together to make sure there's enough money allocated for programs that benefit people with disabilities.
So it's not just about reacting to, like,
Immediate need.
yeah, immediate needs.
Yeah.
It's about
Planning ahead.
thinking long term.
Exactly. Making sure the funding is there to support those plans.
Okay, and this kind of ties into another important point, which is awareness raising, right?
Oh, absolutely.
The JMC talks a lot about that.
It does. It really pushes for both offices, the PDAO and the CSWDO, to work together on those public awareness campaigns.
Okay.
Promoting disability rights, providing sensitivity training.
To, like, policymakers
All
and
policymakers.
service providers, yeah, to anyone who needs it.
So it's about creating a more inclusive society overall.
Exactly.
It's not just about
checking boxes.
checking boxes, right?
It's about changing how people think.
Yeah, and making sure that the needs of people with disabilities are understood
Yes.
and embraced.
And embrace. That's the key. And a lot of that change happens
At the local level.
at the local level. Absolutely. So the JMC talks about empowering communities.
Building capacity from the ground up.
Can you give me an example? Like, what does that actually look like?
Sure. So let's say the PDAO is working with community leaders or barangay officials. They might do training sessions on how to better support people with disabilities in their neighborhoods.
Okay.
They might help create self-help groups, support networks.
Right.
So people can connect with each other.
Share their experiences.
Share their experiences, advocate for their needs together.
Yeah, because there's so much power in that.
There is.
Okay, I like that. Now, we talked earlier about how there can be some overlap between the PDAO and CSWDO.
Right.
When it comes to, like, managing centers.
Yes.
Does the JMC address that at all?
It does. It clarifies which centers are under each office's responsibility.
No.
So residential care facilities, they're usually managed by the LSWBO,
Okay.
while centers that specifically support people with disabilities, like ones that offer assistive technology or vocational training,
Okay.
those usually fall under the PDAO.
So it's about using each office's expertise
Exactly.
strategically.
Yeah. And to make sure all of this keeps running smoothly,
Yeah.
even when staff changes happen, the JMC talks about service continuity.
Okay, so it's not just about setting up the guidelines.
No.
It's about making sure they're actually
Sustainable.
sustainable.
Yeah, long term. So there's a whole process for handling staff changes, making sure new staff are trained on the guidelines,
Okay.
that data management and coordination continue.
Right, because you don't want to lose all that progress
Exactly.
if someone new comes in.
Right.
I'm really impressed by how detailed this JMC is.
It's pretty thorough.
It seems like they're really trying to build a system that works
Yeah, a system that's actually going to benefit people
long term.
long term. Yeah.
And one of the things I find really encouraging is this focus on capacity building.
Yes.
Didn't you mention something about a manual
Oh, right. Yeah.
being developed?
Yeah. The NCDA, they're creating a manual on disability programs and services,
Okay.
specifically to help local governments implement these guidelines.
So it's like a how-to guide.
It is like a step-by-step, here's how to make this work.
So it's not about just, like, throwing the guidelines at them and saying,
Raise luck.
figure it out.
Exactly.
It's
Giving them the tools.
Yeah, giving them the support and the tools.
To make it happen.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
And then there are those transitional provisions we talked about.
Right.
The orientation sessions, the training workshops.
Yeah. All to make sure everyone's on the same page.
So PDAO staff, CSWDO staff, local officials, everyone knows their roles.
And how to work together.
Yeah, how to work together.
Under these new guidelines.
Okay. Now, this all sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
But how do we know it's not just like a bunch of words on paper?
That's the question, right?
Are there ways to make sure these guidelines are actually being put into practice?
There are. The JMC has some monitoring mechanisms built in. Accountability is important. So both the PDAO and the CSWDO, they have to send in regular reports on what they're doing, how they're implementing the guidelines.
So keeping track of progress.
Exactly. Plus the NCDA, the DSWD, and the DLOG.
Okay, the big players.
They're all involved in overseeing how this is all going.
So it's not just about, like, setting expectations. It's about making sure
they're met.
They're actually met.
Exactly. It's a system of checks and balances.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm really seeing how this JMC goes beyond just, like, coordinating services.
Yeah, it's bigger than that.
It's about changing the whole approach.
To disability support.
To disability support.
Yeah, making it more integrated, more responsive.
And ultimately more effective.
Exactly. That's the goal.
This has been so insightful.
It's a fascinating topic.
It really is. We've gone into so much detail about how the PDAO and CSWDO are meant to work together.
To create a better system.
To create a better system.
Yeah.
For everyone.
For everyone.
But we're not done yet.
There's more.
Join us for the final part of this deep dive where we'll explore what all this means for you.
Right. For the listener.
For the listener.
How you can actually use this information.
Yeah.
To advocate for your needs.
To make a difference.
Exactly.
Stay tuned. All right. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been on quite a journey the last two segments.
We have.
Really digging into this JMC, this roadmap for how the PDAO and the CSWDO in the Philippines should be working together to support people with disabilities.
And I think we've come a long way from that feeling of like, wait, who does what?
Yeah, absolutely.
To actually understanding how this JMC is trying to, you know, create this
more seamless system.
Yeah, more seamless, more effective.
Yeah.
And I think what struck me is how it's about more than just coordinating services.
It is.
It's about really changing how we think about disability, empowering communities, putting people's needs first.
Getting those needs front and center.
Yes, exactly. It feels like a turning point.
It does.
You know, a real commitment to creating a society where everyone can thrive.
Yeah, that's what's so inspiring about it.
Yeah.
But it also makes me wonder, you know, we've gone through all these details. What does it actually mean for our listener?
Right.
Like, how can someone with disability or their family members use this information to advocate for their needs, to make sure these guidelines are actually being put into practice?
That's the big question, right? Because this isn't meant to be something that just sits on a shelf.
Right.
It's a call to action.
It is.
For everyone.
Oh, it's not just about understanding the rules. It's about actually
using them.
And making sure they're followed.
Exactly. And the first step is knowledge, right?
Okay, so knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power. Get familiar with the JMC, read through it. It's a public document. You can find it online.
Okay.
On the DSWD website, the DILG, the NCDA.
To do your homework.
Do your homework, exactly. Figure out which sections are most relevant to you. Okay, so that's step one.
Step one. Then don't be afraid to reach out to your local PDAO and CSWDO.
Okay.
Find their contact info. Ask questions. Share your concerns. Give them your ideas.
So be proactive.
Be proactive. This is about collaboration. They need your input to make this work.
Right, because it's a two-way street.
It is, absolutely. And connect with other people.
Oh, right.
Find support groups. Go to community meetings. Reach out to organizations that are doing this work.
Yeah, find your people.
Find your people. Because sharing your experiences, working together, that's where the real power comes from.
Yeah, there's strength in numbers.
Absolutely. And making sure those voices are heard.
At every level.
At every level, from your barangay all the way up to the national government.
This JMC is a huge step, but it's really just the beginning.
It is, yeah. The real work happens.
On the ground.
On the ground, when individuals, communities, and the government are all working together.
To make those rights a reality.
Yes, to make sure everyone has the opportunity to live a full life, to participate, to thrive.
To thrive. That's what makes me so hopeful about all of this.
Me too. It's about creating a society where disability isn't seen as a limitation, but as a part of what makes us human.
Beautifully said. It's a part of that rich tapestry of human experience.
And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive.
Wow, time flies.
It does.
When you're having fun.
When you're exploring important topics.
Important topics, exactly.
So we've explored these complexities of disability support services in the Philippines. We've untangled those roles of the PDAO and the CSWDO.
It was tangled, wasn't it?
It was a bit tangled at the start, yeah.
We got there.
We did. We got there. And we really unpacked this groundbreaking JMC.
Yeah.
But most importantly, I hope we've empowered you the listener,
I hope so.
to take action,
Yes.
to advocate for your needs, and to be part of this movement.
To make a difference.
And make a difference toward a more inclusive Philippines.
It's been such a pleasure talking about this with you.
Likewise, thanks for joining us on this journey. Of course, remember, every voice matters. Every action makes a difference.
Absolutely.
Thanks for tuning into The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.